Hey everybody,
Hello. How are
how's it
you
going,
doing
Don?
today?
I am super excited.
Good.
It's Python on Azure Day, not just any Python day. So,
It is. It
uh,
is.
we've got a cool data science double feature that I am super excited to get started with.
Yeah, and I've had you talk about data science on the Python Pulse the first Friday, or excuse me, the second Friday of every month. And that's actually tomorrow. I have Sujin. We have a great episode with you, me and Sujin a few months ago. So I'll get out of the way. I'll let you talk all the good stuff. Like,
Sweet. Um, let's, I am on limited screen real estate, so hopefully let me know in chat if you can see the slides here. I'm doing a screen share for folks. Okay, cool. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining me on Python Day here. And the first kind of topic that I wanted to share with you, what's new, what's exciting for Pythonistas with the Microsoft Cloud, is Python and Excel. So yeah, let's jump into it. I should also say I'm a senior cloud developer, as the name thing says. I'm a senior cloud developer advocate for Python here at Microsoft. Um, and I've been working with I've been working with data for over 15 years now. But something I do know about myself, and I think a lot of the other humans I work with, are we like grids. I am a big to-do, like column Eisenhower matrix person for my tasks. I play a lot of games that work in grids. Um, I see a lot of cool people making art in grids, too many monitors. So, it seems to be a really natural way for us to understand and process kind of data and information. And we actually also empirically know that data science also loves grids. Um, I highlighted a couple research papers here doing studies about how spreadsheets in particular are kind of critical to how folks collect both like empirical data and qualitative data. And so there's a lot of interesting pedagogy around how do we teach and use these tools, especially because they're also just a really common intermediary. So like um, I'm a Pythonista. I obviously work with a lot of Python stuff, and very often when I'm working with other tools and things, I will be exporting and importing from spreadsheets to basically interoperate with a lot of other tools. So like it's kind of a critical piece to how we work with data. So my question for folks in chat is, what is your favorite kind of grid or table? It can be for work, it can be for fun, maybe you play Factorio, I don't know. Um, Drop it in chat and we'll highlight some fun ones. But so we know grids are good. We also love Python. So speaking from here at Microsoft, we do a lot of stuff with the Python community. We host the CPython core, a lot of the CPython core team, including Guido Van Rossum, who are working on making the core CPython runtime faster. We work with and help develop the Python language features and VS Code and extensions for all kinds of Python related things there. Developing Python learning paths and tutorials, really cool like embedded runtimes so folks can learn with Python and learn to program. We have a great dev blog that kind of highlights a lot of these things that we're working on. And that also includes events like this one. So I work with a really amazing team of developer advocates, many of whom are in chat right now. You can say hi. But yeah, we love to run events like this where we can kind of share what's new and exciting and what we are at Microsoft doing with Python. And I will definitely also plug the Python Pulse that Don was just talking about a minute ago, because it's a great show and so many cool people are on there. So Microsoft likes Python. Data science also likes Python. So I found um, Brian Spencer says data frame. It's their favorite grid. Solid choice. But yeah, obviously data science also likes Python. Just pulling from Anaconda did a state of data science survey. Like Python is kind of almost far and away one of the most commonly used languages here for being a data scientist working with data. So like that's a pretty much a no-brainer. Hopefully, if you're here, you might love Python or maybe at least tolerate it as well. So the kind of main motivation here is what if we could have both of these tools kind of in the same place? Grid paper is also a great choice, Jay, for grids. But yeah, so that's basically where Python in Excel, the Python in Excel integration comes in. So this was announced last week, I think, in public preview. And yeah, it's pretty much what it looks like on the tin. You can take in Excel, you could normally write functions in different cells in your grid. Now you can write Python functions and run them against a full Python kernel in the background, running on the cloud, and you can just write Python right directly in your notebooks. So you might say, why do this? Maybe you like your Python the way it is. Maybe you like your Excel the way it is. But I also work very regularly with Jupyter Notebooks, which are kind of like a 1/n grid. But why try doing this combination? Kind of some of the things after playing around with this for a while now that kind of stood out to me as really good reasons to try this are that you can basically mix. Normally, there's definitely all kinds of plotting and charting and tabling features in Excel. But now you can actually use things like matplotlib and Seaborn and make some like really fancy plots, with just a couple lines of code, as opposed to hours, if not impossible, sorts of work in configuring like the UI plot editors in Excel. And that kind of speaks to the second point here, is like you can kind of mix those features. So Python, you have as a part of the runtime here, packages like scikit-learn, all kinds of machine learning tools and stuff like that. So you can actually now just do machine learning with Python directly in Excel. You don't have to do the like load, work with stuff in memory, export sorts of things. You can just do it right there, which I think saves at least some errors in the translation. I'm looking at you, Excel, with dates. Anyway, you can combine the best of each tool to kind of make your work easier. Honestly, to me, though, one of the kind of killer features is the collaboration aspect. So probably a lot of folks here have had the fun of saying, oh, hey, I just wrote this script sort of thing. Here you can run it. You've got your own data, but you probably are going to need to specify how to run that. So you're going to need an environment, requirements.txt. Maybe you need outside of Python tools like Rust, if you're using polars, like Matthew's mentioning for favorite grids in chat. So it like can very quickly get hard to share even just something fairly simple with somebody in terms of like Python scripting or packaging and stuff, which sometimes you're just like, I don't feel like doing that. So here you can take that, whatever it is, small to medium Python code bytes and actually, or a full-on project, and just share it, the same way you would share a document link. And lastly, but not leastly, there's Microsoft is known for all of its enterprise level security things. The code, where the Python code actually runs, is in a secure container on the Microsoft Cloud. which is running an Anaconda distribution. So that's why it's going to come out of the box with a bunch of kind of the standard data science-y packages like pandas, matplotlib, scipy, scikit-learn, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's an environment that you've probably worked in before. So that's enough talking and enough slides. Let me just actually show you Python in Excel, Jupyter Notebooks in Excel. I mean, it is, I think, a fairly reasonable mental model. The main thing that obviously breaks in terms of comparing a Jupyter Notebook and Excel in the execution model is obviously this is 2D. You now have cells that can go left and right and down. So as a node, when it executes, it will actually go left to right and then down. That one got me. Wasn't exactly what I expected, but it's quite straightforward. So the spreadsheet I got here, please let me know if it's not big enough. I can try zooming it a bit here. So let me know. But I do a lot of tabletop gaming. I like playing Dungeons and Dragons and all kinds of other storytelling and collaborative games. And a lot of folks recently have been wanting to play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So I was like, I'm not very good at taking notes on paper. I'm not very good at just like, I lose my scratch code in different places and stuff. So I decided, hey, what if I can try using Python to kind of do the calculations and manage the data state for our game. But in like a UI, I don't have to like write a UI in Python to make it work. So yeah, basically what does it mean to actually write a Python function here in Excel? I can select a cell just like I type any other function. I can do, sorry, I will narrate here. I can hit equals, which is starting a function. I can type capital P, capital Y. You can see it has the, oh wait, no, it doesn't. Oh, no, it's just slow on my preview. It shows you that it's going to create a Python formula. So I'll open the parentheses and that kind of automatically promotes this cell. You can see the green sidebar here and it says PY. And then I can basically run whatever, I can start typing my Python code. So we were talking about earlier, import this, which is a thing I do often to test when I'm running Python things. And you can see something happened here. So normally, if you're running this in your terminal or in like in a notebook, you would get this in the output cell. By default, the output of Python cells are set to Python objects, but there is two different ways you can kind of output from cells. So this makes sense that a Python object is just whatever that cell would normally return, which normally it would return this text here, which is the Zen of Python. So it's a great way. You don't have to install new packages. You can always test, and it displays a really neat poem that a lot of times I have to return to. Simple, explicit is better than implicit is usually the line I come back to. But yeah, but otherwise in the cell here, this doesn't really help. None type isn't, maybe what we're looking for. So if I maybe click over here, I'm going to stop editing that cell. I'm going to make this also a Python cell. And I can say, hey, please grab me the output from the cell. So in a very similar way that like you would normally work in Excel, you can refer to different cells in your sheet. That's kind of how you do formulas. When you're doing this in Python, there is an always loaded module called XL, and that's basically your interface from Python to kind of the rest of the Excel, what Excel exposes to you in terms of data and features and things like that. So if I do this and I hit Shift Enter, it again, I mean, it should just give me a copy of that, but if I, in this cell, say, hey, I would like you to output this as an Excel value, it should see that it's text, and it's still, why is it still calculating? Okay. I am not sure. I probably need to explicitly, how that returns as a module is maybe not the best example. But what I could do is I have a bunch of other, if you want to see like kind of what's running in, I made a little cell here that looks at, imports some packages. So just like I start my notebook or my script, I import a bunch of things. And then the main way to get cells to display things is basically to return a string. Printing, if you print something, it'll show up here in the diagnostic window. So here in this A6 here, what I'm going to do is basically grab information about that container that I'm running in, versions of packages and stuff like that. And I've got a block string here. Sorry, I'm not really sure how to make this part of the UI bigger. Hopefully you can see. But if I run that, then basically I can have a nice formatted string output here. So maybe an easier to see example is here. So like for this worksheet and stuff that I'm working on, I didn't want to keep typing the stat labels. So I just made a variable that's a list of those strings. And I could just do the format string syntax here and just say stat names and everything that you would expect out of standard kind of formatted strings in Python. And again, notably, you don't have to put print there. When you have errors in cells, they will also come up. You will get the little kind of normal error icon, as well as messages and stuff will come up in this diagnostic panel. So it's actually pretty easy to track down what cells. It even also says like here at the top of the diagnostic window, this is from the start sheet and C3. So yeah. I know I need to move along here. So I have a couple other things defined here. Basically, I wanted to be able to roll some dice in this sheet, mainly just so people could potentially see and or I could prove that if we're playing remotely. I can generate random character stats and basically random parties of characters. And the other thing that, so because of where this Python, the containers that this Python code runs in, they are locked off from the internet for security reasons. So you can't, at the moment, install other packages or access like download things or anything like that. So that's where using some of the kind of Excel tooling can make that a lot easier. I had not known about this feature before I started playing around with the Python in Excel, but there's something called Power Query in Excel. As you can see, the tab comes up here because I'm in this sheet. But basically, I found somewhere on GitHub, somebody had a spreadsheet in their repo that was the fifth ed bestiary, like monster manual. So I wanted to be able to randomly generate encounters for players. And so I didn't want to type in, and I didn't want to necessarily copy in, maybe I want to stay up to date to some other resource. Maybe I get some other like mods added in here. But yeah, so I can set up a Power Query. I give it the URL for the file, and then I get this nice query editor where it kind of shows me a preview of like what it sees at that end resource, which can be local, it can be connecting to a SQL database, it can be connecting, since there's SQL APIs, it could be connecting to Fabric, which is Microsoft Fabric, which is what I'll be talking about next. All kinds of things. And you can do some preliminary cleaning here. So there's definitely, like I'm very much a fan of and familiar with doing data cleaning in pandas. But maybe there's just some really quick things, like I guess I should probably break up this attack parameters column. That might be okay to do in Python. I don't know, I haven't tried yet, but anyway, so you kind of get this query editor, and then that stays up to date. So that kind of always makes sure that this is a source of truth. And I can refer to this table elsewhere in my sheets. So I want to show some other examples. So let's talk real quick about execution. I will also look at chat here very briefly. I just want to make sure I get through the core things I want to show you. So in terms of when it runs cells, we talked about it goes left to right and then top to bottom. But you have, and when you run a cell, it will rerun every cell in a notebook. So that's kind of like if you're working in Jupyter Notebooks, it's rerun, rerun the whole, clear output and rerun the whole notebook. That may not be what you want, especially if you have some kind of like expensive calculations. I have some here that are a little bit longer, which is slowing things down a bit, but you can, in the formulas tab here, that's actually where you're going to, when you enable to use this, you're going to have to be on the Microsoft 365 Insiders right now while it's in preview. But there'll be a little Python part here to the formulas bar where you can put in samples and pull up like that diagnostics panel and even view what initialization happens. So like this is right now read only, but it shows you what's actually run when it starts up that container. But you can also see here, there's calculation options for the worksheet. So this was something that like really kind of changed my experience here, because like, obviously if I'm running a game here, there's probably some cells I don't want to keep rerunning. Otherwise, my party stats every time I roll a die is gonna update. There's some ways to get around that, but also I can just change the execution mode here to be partial or manual, just every cell at a time. But in general, Excel is looking to kind of make sure its entire state is up to date. So that's kind of why the default is, I don't know what happened when you were editing. I'm just gonna rerun everything and make sure what you see is the most up to date. But anyway, let's see. Talked about that. So I wanted to show you a little bit using some of the other cool Python packages that are in the Anaconda distribution here. Let me zoom us in here a little bit. I wanted to take a look a little bit at, I've got this bestiary or monster manual loaded here, and there's a lot of data. It has like all of the, if I look here, I've got the monster alignment, types, sizes, like all kinds of stats about it. And I was wondering if I could do some like categorization, use scikit-learn to kind of correlate and predict, if I try to create a monster of my own, help me predict stats for what I might want to create for an encounter, to make sure it's kind of consistent with the general design. So let's look at just a subset of those stats: the monster level, health points, armor class, and how much XP or experience points you get when you kill it or defeat it. So I can do something like this. I'm going to import scikit-learn, and in this case, just do a test train split. I'm getting ready to do some machine learning stuff. I'm not sure I'll have time to go through all of it, but basically I can just refer to this again with that XL module, just say, hey, give me the old bestiary sheet, and I'll interact with that as if it's a data frame, because that XL module actually just returns a data frame. So I go through, I do a bunch of stuff there, and I can use Seaborn here. It's hard to show you the formula, but let me just make the big bigify the picture, but here you can see just like with basically 4 lines roughly of Seaborn, I can take that data set and look at those 4 parameters. And in this case, I was trying to figure out like, are larger monsters always harder? um, and yeah, so like here, I can start exploring that data, trying to figure out, are there some correlations? Are lawful good creatures always easier? Like, I'm super excited to dig in more with this. But the last thing kind of along the collaboration route is there's some really neat ways you can share just selections of cells. And so I was playing around with like, if I want to be able to show folks like what the current initiative table or some state of the game, but without showing them all my notes, this might be a really cool way to do it. So I know I'm short on time. I'm going to come back real quick here. And let's just really quickly review a lot of the cool stuff. There's so many neat things to show you. There's a lot of great blogs and content and stuff already online for you to explore. But basically, the main highlights are we can use all kinds of advanced Python package stuff for plotting, for machine learning, for statistical analysis, just right in Excel. And we don't have to go back and forth to spreadsheets, things like that. It's just pretty straightforward. You can also show some, you can use the best of both worlds for each tool. Again, date formatting might be a good application for that. Use Python packages to parse dates more accurately. But yeah, so you can use like conditional formatting in Excel for output on your pandas tables, things, so you don't have to write all that styling in Python. And it's really nice for collaboration. So seeing everybody's cursors, sharing a link, it's kind of that experience I would expect out of a lot of my other tools at this point. And we talked about a lot of the security things. There's no network access. And the Python, when you show the Excel output formatted, it only understands strings, numbers, Booleans, and images. So that keeps it pretty simple, and that's why often it will also just say, hey, it's a Python object, if you try to give it something more than that. And yeah, it's been really exciting to kind of work with the team that's been building this, try out a lot of the cool stuff. Guido even consulted on this, so the Python part is solid. And yeah, so what can you do now? You can give it a go if you have, again, right now at least, a Windows machine and an M365 Insiders subscription. You can sign up for the Insiders part just from the settings on your Microsoft 365 subscription. So you can try out the Getting Started template there, or you can join, if you don't have access for some reason, you can join the wait list. And right now, while it's in public preview, it's free, and there'll be more updates as we approach GA about what sort of licensing will be available in the future. But yeah, if you have feedback, ideas, we've got a great GitHub repo, Microsoft/Python and Excel. Drop questions if you're actually trying it out. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to look at the questions here real quick and see if there's any. Also, if there's any we should highlight that I didn't get answered.
Yeah, we had great engagement from the chat. Hey, Sarah, how you doing? I just had to pop on. I loved this session. I love learning about Python and Excel, but also just hearing about D&D. My partner's in 2 campaigns, so I don't know much about it, but I hear a lot about it. And so this was a really, really great refresher to learn more about real world imaginary scenarios.
That's true. That's true.
So we do have a bunch of great questions. I do know, however, just based on the time, you are the next session. You are a wonderful double feature. So I will leave it to you if you want to answer maybe like one question before you roll into the next one, whichever one you think is most helpful right now. Or we can take these offline and answer in the chat later on.
Let's take a couple questions. Cool. I just haven't been following. If you have ones you want to highlight.
Yeah, so in the comments section, we have a bunch of the questions under the starred tab. Those are some of the good questions. We can start with,
let's see. Harry asks, can Python code query sources outside of the Excel workbook where it's running? As far as I understand, yes. The Power Query feature, like, it can, as long as you have network access or, a connection string to the database, whatever you need to get to it, that kind of syncing and querying is handled by that component. And then it effectively, there's either a symlink, effectively like a symlink, or it copies the data in locally so you can work with it there, and the rest of the sheet, it's as if it was there. You can obviously also work with local data. So you can just open up your favorite spreadsheet where you've been tracking stuff and just use it right from there.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of also like tons of database connections and stuff. I didn't have a whole list of all of the things there. Let's see.
I'll also say that Peter says, fascinating initiative, great presentation. So thumbs up all around.
Yeah, I want everybody in chat to roll for initiative, and we'll see. That's how I should handle the questions. Dang it. Yeah, I definitely,
we can answer these in the chat later on.
Yeah,
too.
I will answer these in chat, and also I'm on the Python Discord as well. Just Jacob says, please make some sort of Excel version of Jupyter Notebook. I will just say, and watch the blog. This is a preview, so there is lots of stuff folks are working on.
Yeah. Link to the Discord is below there.
Yes, aka.ms/python-discord. I am there all the time. Crazy for Pi 314.